It's 9, so this thing should be on. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so this is the session, Leveraging E-Resources for Affordable Course Materials. I am Lisa Davis. I'm the Interim Director at FIU College of Law in Miami, Florida. We are South Florida's public law school. I get a lot of questions about that. We are a public institution.
And I'm Mary Ann Neary. I'm the Associate Law Librarian for Education and Reference at Boston College.
And we're going to talk about steps librarians can take in doing outreach to your institutions in order to talk about how to make law school, and education more affordable by utilizing the resources that are available, either open access or because the library provides them to all of the law students. So, what are they?
There's a whole spectrum of affordable course materials. So we're living in a situation now where law students typically can spend upwards of $185 per casebook. So our mission in crafting this presentation was to show you a spectrum of affordable course materials. So when we say affordable, we're talking about things like CALI, library licensed content, which of course does not reflect in the student's own book bill, casebooks that are offered with low-cost printing options like those from Semaphore Press or other places. In that institution is picking up the fee for those affordable course materials. So if you're looking at something that's licensed through West Academic Study Aids, your institution has paid that fee, not the student. The other end of that spectrum is completely open resources, so material that might be licensed under a Creative Commons license, and there's no cost associated with that content. And I've just given you two examples here. There's an open source property casebook, for example, and a trademark law open source casebook. And at the end, we'll show you a bibliography with some links to our LibGuides that have more resources of that type.
So different institutions can exercise different strategies because all of us have access to different content based on what contracts we have. So at Boston College, you have a grant program that's really cool.
We do, and that is really through our main campus, and it's to inspire faculty by giving them a monetary grant to spend time going out and seeking out affordable course material. It doesn't have to be content that they create themselves, although it can be, and basically it's giving them the time and the money to spend building that course content. So one example is we had one professor who wanted to offer a course in feminist jurisprudence. She worked with the library, she got the grant, and we spent time helping her to find the readings for that and loading them into her Canvas course site.
You want to show them the program now or do that?
We can do that later.
Okay. I am a Florida State institution, and university-wide throughout the state of Florida, we have the affordability counts in Florida. This is primarily geared toward undergraduate education and the online programs that are offered at the public institution, but if you do some outreach and do some cross-collaboration with your librarians across campus, and at FIU, there's FIU Online, which is a very large part of the campus, and I communicate with some friendly instructional designers to talk about what's going on with affordability counts. Through those connections, I learned a whole lot about how the state of Florida is pushing affordable education at a broad scenario, and I'm trying to apply it at the law school. So that's kind of how I got into this, is to talk about what the law school, what the law library can do in that bigger space within the state of Florida construct. And the links and the slides will be provided if you want to read more about what's going on in Florida and at FIU with FIU Online specifically. So types of materials. As we said, there's open access, there's affordable, the different meaning. We're talking about affordability from the student's perspective. The library, my library pays a lot of money for different resources, but the students don't see any of that, right? It doesn't hit their pocketbook. So there's many different types of licensed resources, and we're going to go through them step by step. But one of the things that's really cool that's going on, and we learn about that here at Cali, is Instructor-Curated content and what you can do with Cali resources and Cali author and those sort of things. And also government publications. And do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we all have classes at our institution where students have to purchase a statutory supplement, and they're always out of date at the end of the semester. So what we're trying to do is encourage our faculty to go out and work with them to create the links into those statutory resources. Now, obviously through Cali, thanks to them, we have the rules resources. So if students need the evidence rules for their class, they don't need to purchase that. They can get that, download it through Cali. We can also help them download it through the federal court site. We're also encouraging our faculty, if they are interested in curating their own content, to look at case law that's available either through Google Scholar or through the Case Law Access Project, which is easy for them to access. And of course, I think most of our faculty know about the Legal Information Institute.
Yes. And I heard a cool thing that a faculty member is doing in a car on our way over here. She's challenging her students, how cheaply can you buy the UCC? Because apparently you can find it on eBay for $5. So that's an interesting challenge for students to start having them think about different ways that they can make education a little bit more affordable. So we talked about a substitute for affordable materials in lieu of the casebook. That's a little bit different, right? Most casebooks, most things that are assigned for the student to purchase them. Things are changing though in the publication world, and they're recognizing that because there's this vast ocean of open access materials in different ways that instructors can create packets, that they're going to have to answer that call. Students now coming out of undergrad are used to going to their online platform, their LMS, and they're used to just clicking through, finding library resources, getting their ebook. That's not happening so much in legal education. But students are going to be expecting that moving forward. So what are we going to be doing with these learning management platforms? Cali offers different subject areas, subject-specific casebooks. There's also a Cali author. Yesterday I saw Elmer demonstrate the forthcoming author web tool, which is really amazing, the way that faculty are now going to be able to basically create their entire course. And you can integrate those things into how you're instructing, and all of those, if you have a Cali institution, which is everybody here, the students don't see that, right? That's going to be affordable for them. And then there's H2O.
Right. So H2O is the Harvard Innovation Lab. And for example, at Boston College, we had one professor, Professor Brian Quinn, who created his own open access corporations casebook. It's open to anyone to use. He can authorize them to edit it and change it, so you could adopt it at your law school, one of your faculty could use it, and add perhaps different cases or additional cases. It operates both as an open casebook platform and in a sense like a learning management system, because you log in and you're looking at all the content for that particular course. And the idea is that it is entirely open access. So Harvard faculty use it. I think BYU faculty are on there, and BC faculty, and Lisa, I know you have faculty there as well.
And this is all listed examples of how you can leverage these things are in the bibliography, and we're going to go through that. The last point here is blogs and just creating a blog. I have a faculty member that has his civil procedure course in a blog, and that's how he interacts with students to have a discussion, but also provide materials in addition to the casebook he's assigning. I'm working on him. We'll get there. But it at least faculty that are doing this are friendly faculty, right? They're people that the library can reach out to and talk with to say, hey, you're already doing this in the blog. Why don't take it a step further, get rid of that casebook, or at least substitute it with something that's similar, because they're already creating a lot of content in this space. We have an adjunct, Cassandra Leskowski, who is a librarian at Duke, but she adjuncts at FIU to teach our law practice technology. She has no assigned casebook, and she provides all of her information in the blog as well. That's linked in the bibliography. There's a lot of different ways that this can happen. So there are open access resources, and Callie E. Langdale titles are one.
Absolutely. So when I teach my bankruptcy research class, part of what I have them do is go in and use some of the Callie E. Langdell books. So there's a bankruptcy book by Professor Brown there that we use some of the examples from, and also, as I mentioned, the federal rules publications, so that students aren't buying a supplement for that. Duke has taken a really interesting step, and I'm not sure if it's been a grant-funded program or how they've incentivized their faculty to do this, but they do publish a series of course books for students. So I mentioned here the intellectual property one. It can be downloaded for free under a Creative Commons license, and there's also a link to a printer if students do want to order a low-cost print version of the casebook, they can do that. This has been in existence for a number of years, and it is continually updated. So there are ways that faculty are getting into the open access realm. As Lisa mentioned, it's so much more common in the undergraduate arena that a lot of our students do have that real sticker shock when they come in and find the casebook costs.
So now, what are the library resources that are available? These are all resources that are paid through the library's budget or licensed for the library. Like I said, different institutions. We discovered a little bit about Lexis Digital Libraries preparing for this presentation about the differences and what different institutions can offer. Key here is multiple simultaneous user. What does that mean? Typically in the ebook arena, like if you have an overdrive where it's one ebook, you check it out and nobody else can access it. That's changing. I've been seeing that happening with a lot of different publishers, from EBSCO to Lexis to Westlaw to West Academic, all of them know. Nobody wants to see, you can't have this. Somebody else has got it. Multiple simultaneous user means everybody can access it at once. The first type of this is the Bloomberg Law ebooks. And what I'm talking about is, everybody knows BNA is no more, it's now within Bloomberg Law, and they have their own publications. Here are two examples, and I just want to click on this first one. Mayor Brown, LLP, Federal Appellate Practice, Brian Netter, 3rd edition, 2018. This is an interesting conundrum. A faculty member actually requested this for summer research with an RA and wanted to buy it, wanted to have the RA buy it. You can't buy it anymore, right? Bloomberg Law has moved and is moving more and more and more of their print content to e-only, and this is just one example. The other example that I provided here, I'm sorry, and just on this note, when you go to the publisher's website, to the Mayor Brown LLP website, where'd my presentation go? There we go. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. They send you nowhere to purchase. It's a 404 message. So everybody is kind of learning about what's going on and what's changing with Bloomberg Law. Also, a caveat about Bloomberg, if it's not a Bloomberg publication, right? They have books from other publishers. That's not guaranteed, right? Because they may decide to sever that relationship. So those are not really reliable sources of multi-simultaneous user. I mention that because as you push this out, your outreach is happy, right? And you don't want the user a year from now to say, what happened to my book? No, I don't want that, right? You don't want that to happen. Another version of this is West Academic Study Aids. For those of you who have this package or some version of it, there's different levels. What I've been finding in this space is this is a great opportunity to outreach to your academic excellence programs, to your bar prep programs, because they are touting to the students, hey, right? Acing series, nutshells, get help. And then the student has to whip out their pocketbook and buy it somehow. Now they don't have to anymore because the library is paying for it. If you can afford to do this, great. If you can't, just think about it differently. I know some institutions have purchased individual nutshells to put in overdrive. Right, Ulysses?
Yes.
Shaking his head. We tried that, and you can buy 100 copies of Understanding Contracts, and then it kind of creates a multi-simultaneous user experience. Once you start doing the math with the study aids cost, though, you can offset that. So that's an opportunity to kind of think about where funding is coming from and how to help students. Then there's Thomson Reuters ProView.
Right. Let me just ask you, how many of you folks have the West Academic Study Aids? Do you know? So a lot of folks
Just getting
have.
it in July.
But we're actually just getting rid of it and switching over to Walter Kluwer's, because whereas originally the price differential, West was more affordable.
Yes.
That has changed.
Mhm.
And if you're doing it from the student perspective for study aids that they want, Walter Kluwer's probably, at least in the early years of first year, has the more popular ones.
Interesting.
But again, the affordability of this also, but libraries are going around, and I'm on my faculty pedestal for a moment, so touting this, but most first-year faculty don't want their students using these study aids, right? It's a shortcut that ends up defeating their grade because they don't learn how to do legal analysis. They memorize a shortcut out of a study aid, and that doesn't help them. So in many respects, a lot of these resources are hurting our students' performance, and in turn, their bar pass rate, which a lot of schools have issues with, because they're not learning in the first year how to do that foundational legal analysis, and they're not learning those foundational concepts. They're memorizing it from a study aid, not synthesizing it themselves.
I think there may be some instances of that, but honestly, when I look at students, most of the first-year students do not have time to spend a lot of time memorizing or even reading through extensively the study aids. They tend to be adopted more heavily in the second and third years, because students have become more savvy and they kind of know, I have to read my casebook and then I have to go on and do my analysis. And
Then
write
your
up my
students are
cases.
not the norm.
Well, I don't know if they're the norm or not, but academic study aids, of course, include more than just the memorization tools. So a lot of them can be actually good pedagogical tools, because if you're, for example, going to subscribe to the E&Es, they offer, here are the sample questions that go with this area of contract.
As I said, they can be wonderful if used correctly.
Yeah, so that's basically our take on it. We also have Thomson Reuters ProView. Anybody here
has ProView?
Okay. So ProView is actually linking in through your LMA, and those tools that you have, those publications that you have available in your print collection are now going to be available electronically. Ironically, one of the things we found very helpful about this is it also allows you electronic access to earlier editions. So sometimes when faculty want to go back and see, oh, you know, this case was cited in an earlier edition, what else did they say? It's easier to do that sort of backwoods research for them. At BC, we have some specialized content that may or may not apply to some of you folks. So we have the IBFD, or International Bureau of Fiscal Documentation platform, and it includes eBooks. So a lot of our tax faculty are heavily interested in international topics. If they have students writing, for example, in a tax policy seminar, it's a fabulous resource, because students can go in and look at over 100 ebooks on some really interesting international topics. Again, as Lisa mentioned, it's simultaneous use, so I don't have to worry about who in the policy seminar has this topic or that topic. They all have access. That's true too with some of the CLE content with the relicense. Yeah.
Question. I just wanted to ask about Thomson Reuters ProView. So what's the benefit of having it, I mean, wouldn't they just get the same things on Westlaw? What's the benefit of having it integrated into the LMS, or do students use it that way?
I see someone shaking your head. Yeah.
All of the state-specific materials will be in ProView if you already own them, but they're not necessarily on Westlaw.
Okay. Okay.
So depending what state you're in, if it's a level 1 state, a level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, the further down you go in the state, in the levels, the less state-specific materials are placed on Westlaw.
Oh, interesting.
So,
And you can do extensive title comparisons. I will caution you that working with your Westlaw rep to get title comparison spreadsheets that are one-to-one is very complicated, and it is a lot of legwork to do that comparison. But I also know that FIU Law did it, and happily, it's now enabled us to have a better conversation with clinics, with the legal research and writing faculty, and with just other faculty that are, for example, I got a request for the evidence, right? Federal rules of evidence, and I said, here, it's in ProView. Here it is. You don't have to worry about it. So that was kind of a nice win. This is Boston College's ProView. We can log into FIU's a little bit later so you can see the difference. These are books, right? So that is the biggest difference with ProView. If you go into any of these, they interact like a Kindle e-reader type book with table of contents and so on.
So you're literally seeing the document that you would have if you had the print.
And it has all those annotation functions that you're used to.
What is the integration with things like downloading it to Kindle, downloading it to like iPads, phones?
ProView has their own reading app. They keep their stuff. But it's very interactive. It works, knock on wood, we haven't had any problems with downloading it and having students and faculty use it. I think we left off at Oxford.
Right. Oxford handbooks, again, if you have students who are taking a comparative constitutional law class, whatever, many times your main campus may license Oxford titles, and those do include things like the Handbook of Comparative Constitutional Law. Again, just expanding your scope a little bit for those materials that you can incorporate into your course materials.
And this is where talking with your the other side of campus, if you have a main campus library, Springer, there's other publishers, the big Elsevier publisher, they have big contracts that enable, what we've been able to do is, under the big contract, it gives access to the platform, right? And then we purchase little pieces of law material that can supplement legal education for faculty and students. And then there's Lexis Digital Libraries. How many have Lexis Digital Libraries? So not as many. They're here, so they can demo the platform. And what this is, it's an Overdrive. If anyone has a public library and you're used to getting ebooks from Overdrive, that's how it works. And we discovered that institutional, surprise, surprise, institutional subscriptions vary. We have at FIU multi-simultaneous user, which enables me to leverage the understanding series very nicely in this space, but
We have individual.
use.
So if one person has checked out a particular title in understanding, the next person cannot, and they'll get a message saying that it's unavailable.
And the message here in affordability is just know what you have, right? That's what we keep talking about. Different institutions have different needs, different institutions will have different approaches. Are study aids bad or good? It depends, right? It depends on where you are. And then there's curated content. And this is about what can you create instead of purchasing a ready, done, published book.
So I mentioned to you earlier that one of our corporations professors had created his own open source textbook for corporations on Harvard H2O. But there are other examples too. For example, the Harvard criminal law professor has her created casebook on H2O. In the past at BC, we had one of our instructors create all the materials for a church and state seminar that's still on H2O. He's no longer updating it. So you need to have to kind of look carefully at these resources to see how current they are. We have, for example, a kind of interesting connection with a group called Icon Connect. They're a group studying international constitutional law and comparative constitutional law, and they've created a global review that now is coming out in different editions. It's actually on the platform of SSRN, and it can be accessed freely. There are no restrictions on it. Did you want to talk about the Caselaw Access project, Lisa? All right, you want me to keep going? Okay.
Sure. I'm
So-
losing my voice. I caught a cold right before this. Sorry.
The Caselaw Access Project, we know, is the scanning, the digitization of all the case law from federal and state courts. And that is now public. So if your faculty want to go in and download, it's quite open. There are some restrictions, I think, to prevent other vendors from trying to take that content down. So I think the restriction is no more than 500 cases a day, or I may be not remembering that correctly, but it's quite a large amount, more than I think your faculty will be looking at. So they can easily go in and pull in, if they know there are certain cases that they love to teach for property, it's easy for them to go in and get a copy of that case that has no copyright restrictions on it. So if you've looked at the case law access scanning, you'll see that they did it from West Reporter books, but they've blacked out all of the topic and key number head notes. So you're literally looking at just the content of the case itself.
What format are they in?
You can download it as a PDF, and I think you can do like mass downloads as well.
But it's all PDF. Are they searchable or are they pictures?
I think it's actually searchable.
You want to download one?
Sure. So, let's see.
This is what happens when you do a live demo. Nothing works. Here we go.
Yep. So you can search by command, download whole zip files, use their API to browse and download, or just browse all of them. So to be truly random, in Arkansas Appellate Reports, here's our case.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you need to know what case you want?
No, it's searchable.
It's total, okay, so.
Yes. Let's go back. I'm sorry, did I go too quickly? So search
You can
allows you
search
to sort of
here.
browse and download cases. So full text search.
Anybody have an example? And you can, this drop down, cases, courts, jurisdiction, reporters. So does anybody have a case they want to look up to see how this looks? No?
No.
Everyone needs more coffee? Okay. It's a resource to find open source materials. So. Anyway.
And then just two other examples of these open source case books, if you want to inspire faculty, show them how this might be presented. There's a brand new professional responsibility casebook that was just posted on SSRN. And then we mentioned working with faculty to curate their own statutory supplements earlier, using those open source.
Yeah.
I will say I use Barden's trademark
Do you?
law book in my trademark law class, and I know it's
Excellent.
used out at UCI and a variety of places. And he provides not only the case book, but he provides slides he uses, other people contribute exams. If you contact him and say you're a faculty member looking at adopting it, he then provides you a password to his faculty only, his faculty resources. And there's also then the statutory material for trademark there too. So it was great. A lot of the students ended up buying, you can buy then a print version
Yes.
pretty cheaply. One caveat is that numbering ended up different than the numbering that I was using based off of the online version. So, but they figured out, since my syllabus had both topic and page numbers,
Yes.
what we were actually talking about. And it was
And
great.
These are in PDF and doc both.
So I've been making my own contracts casebook for the last 4 or 5 years.
Great.
I do a combination of things using some of the Cali ebooks. And I have some friends who have done materials in the past that have given me license to use theirs. So mine is not totally open source in the sense that other things have gone on to become copyrighted, but I have permission. One of the things when you get into the science of learning is that there's some real debate as to whether reading an online textbook is a good way for at least entry-level law students to be reading. So one of the things I will tell people about is Lulu or other sheet printing options where they can download and print my entire 500 or 600-page book. You can print the whole book in a nice bound issue for $25. So I do always recommend printing, and when you're talking to a lot of faculty and trying to persuade them to this, I would recommend touting that option because most faculty have read the studies that say that the actual holding and turning of pages triggers a different part of your brain in the learning. And they are showing that, especially since people who have been reading on screens traditionally have not read heavy, dense material, they're not internalizing it the same way. So I love the technology. I am a wholehearted adopter, but I have 4 years of students and research and examining some of the real issues with it. So it's,
In my syllabus, I did say you want to print it off, and what I did was I just printed it from the website and put it in a binder, was my solution, and then my numbers lined up. But when they went to the commercial vendor who bound, that was the difference that we ended up with.
right, I actually did one, I did a test run of it, and it was incredibly helpful, but it's really and they can do it by chapter, so they don't have to carry the whole darn thing all the time, or they can do it by the whole book, or they can do it loose leaf, unbound, but there are lots of options, and it's a wonderful new thing that's happening, but a lot of people are adopting without truly doing assessment as to some of the impact on the learning and teaching aspect of it. And law schools are not known for their assessment in terms of teaching and learning. The standard statement is from law faculty that I taught it, of course they know it. But I love it, I want to keep moving. I don't mean to be a naysayer at all, but there are some bumps, some speed bumps in the road that we really have to think about.
If I can, and I forgot to open up something and to prevent you all from seeing all my private documents, I'll do that while I talk. I held a student focus group to talk about versus print, and we've done a couple of surveys to kind of figure out what is your preference, what is reality here. And the reality is they prefer print if they can afford it. So we're working with next year, we have a local printing house on campus to talk about how to print, make it easier, can we deliver it because we're pretty far and it's hot in Miami, to bring back these things that they need printing. The other thing that our students really wanted was a binder so that they could take out the chapter or the reading material and leave the rest of it wherever they come from.
Yeah, I only took the pages I was talking about to class, and then the students were lugging this big thing that they bound, and I'm like, I just pop open my binder and take what we're talking about today.
And I recommend that's to save their back, right? But I'm really glad to see that you had the research on that. The other thing I always caution people is surveying students, particularly first years, is dangerous because they don't necessarily have a good judgment, especially if it's before their exams. They have not yet determined the difference between law school and other studying, and they don't necessarily know what's the best thing. I mean, I have students who say we want class 1 night a week because that's more convenient, but pedagogically, that's not good education. And so they complain.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just, we have to be careful in what student preferences
The
are.
key is knowing your institution and knowing what goes on and what works for you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about leveraging PowerNotes. Who has PowerNotes? Nobody. A little bit, some people. They're here, they're good people. Again, this is money, this is library money paying for a resource. PowerNotes, I can't say enough good things about it. Our law review uses it for seminars, for me, for interacting with faculty to do research trails, what have you. How can we use it to create affordable course materials? And if you know PowerNotes, you're looking at me like I'm crazy, that's okay. PowerNotes allows you to highlight, annotate, you can add in notes, and then you download a Word document and it spits out something that looks like or feels like, with a little bit of tweaking using word styles, a casebook. What do I mean? So this is a legal research trail. I just taught legal research to some undergraduate students, so just bear with me, that I created, not using PowerNotes. You can see that there's bullets here. That's my hypothetical. In here for help, I'm telling them where to go on the page, and obviously I have a PowerPoint and I'm walking through this in a live scenario and instruction. I did the same thing in PowerNotes, and it looks a little bit different, right? It looks the same because I edited it with styles. And then I have this quote here, Sources of American Law. This is a Callie E. Langdell title, ebook. I've put it in my guide about legal research. I have quoted with the quotes using PowerNotes. I just highlighted it, right? Just click through, highlighted it. And PowerNotes has created for me a link to take you there. It's easier than creating a hyperlink from within any of Lexis, Westlaw, etc. Because you have to click on, how do I cite here, and then copy the link, and then put it in and embed it, and blah, 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 blah. PowerNotes does all that work for you. And with a little bit of tweaking with styles, you can make it look pretty decent, pretty good. I love it. I see potential here. I'm working with a couple faculty over the summer to try and get this to be rolled out and utilized. Again, this is a lot of legwork. This is a lot of outreach and heavy lifting. But as you can see, if I scroll down here, the instructional videos that I'm telling the students to go to, instead of finding the link and then screenshotting it or whatever version of this each one of us chooses to do, PowerNotes has quoted that section, and then I can click on this, and I forgot to log into Lexis. That's okay. We'll do that really quick. And it takes you right there. Takes you right there. Takes you right there. No, it's not working. What's going on? There we go.
There we go.
Instructional videos. So does everybody see that connection here? Instructional videos, LexisNexis, and then instructional videos, LexisNexis. And all I did in PowerNotes was highlight this, right? And if I had PowerNotes on, which again, live demonstrations always go so well, PowerNotes would come up and prompt me to add it to my topics, which then I can then download as a Word document and share with students. So I see great potential here with PowerNotes. I've leveraged it a little bit. I could do better. Professor Yearwood would say we should all be the motivation for change. We should live the change. One caveat with these, right? I discovered in Lexis and Westlaw, if there is an embedded footnote, PowerNotes can't capture it. So that was weird and kind of annoying. PowerNotes can't capture Google searches either. So, it doesn't capture everything. It's not a perfect thing. And then also I was demonstrating MuniCode. Because MuniCode is an interface where they're overlaying the website of a municipality, PowerNotes also couldn't capture that. but it did capture the municipal code from Lexis and Westlaw, so, you know, depending on what you have access to, it makes it pretty easy. If anyone wants to talk to me about PowerNotes and formatting and styles, we can get to that during the Q&A. Oh, it's 9:30. Okay, let's keep going. So, one success story.
So I mentioned to you about the professor who created the open access corporations book. That was actually done through the grant program. So he received money from the main campus, had time and support from the law library to create the content for that, search for the cases, format it, and now that's something that he's updating. So it's also going to be offered again in fall 2019. If you go into HTO, it's there, it's open, it's available to everybody. I think part of what we're seeing too is people taking that money and not necessarily creating a whole casebook, but taking the time and effort to work with the law library to research those sources they can create readings in their Canvas website for. So some of that might come from Cali, it might come from H2O, it might come from things that the professor himself or herself has written, but it's a way to curate all of that. So I think the grant money, again, we want to incentivize faculty to make this easy, attractive for them, and that's been one way we've been successful.
And FIU also has a grant program, and you might be surprised once you start talking with your campus stakeholders of what you don't know that your campus has to incentivize some of these instructor-curated content. So this success story, Booklist integration, what I discovered was, hey, the library has books, eBooks, that are being assigned as casebooks. Lo and behold, isn't that great? So I reached out to the administrative assistant that gets the book list together. I also do a little bit of web work, so I talk with the web developer, hey, when does this happen, right? Because the key with outreach is getting in there when it matters. So in Florida, we have to give our book list by a certain date. The date for fall is July 8th. So I'm getting ready to say, hi, hey, faculty, guess what? In your subject, we have this, and this, and this, either to replace what you have because it's a parallel ebook, or in addition, right? And that's talking with a friendly faculty, that's getting to know your Dean of Student Services, your Dean of Academic Affairs, and doing those steps in outreach. This is kind of the step. And then the result of this, and demonstrating the library's value in the book list, is a book list where, and I had to archive this in the Internet Archive because we're doing a web redesign at the end of the summer, and I didn't want you all to be emailing me, where'd the link go? Because it's gonna disappear. So that's why it's an Internet Archive link. But this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? This section. Carpenter, criminal law, Dressler, understanding criminal law. He assigns this to students to buy. I said, hey, professor, we have it in ebook through Lexis Digital Libraries. Can they alternatively, optionally, because you want to speak kindly, right? Like, no, I'm not here to replace it. No, just give students the opportunity to have an affordable option. And then we put in the link, and this is what students can do. Right? This has now trickled down to where I'm having conversations. We are a Barnes & Noble house. Didn't know that either at the beginning of this. Talking with the bookstore and with FIU business office. Hey, what's going on with how can the library list in our faculty booklist adoption online portal to optionally go to the library and do some outreach in that space and make sure that the portal lets the library communicate with students too. So I'm working on that over the summer. I don't know if it'll be successful, but it's always, polite persistence, right? Hey, library, we're good people, right? The clinic. So this is heavily in ProView. One thing I did working with clinics, and I'm proud to say that starting in fall 2019, the clinic is going down to 6 print titles only. Yay, the rest is E, which is great for clinics, right? Because they're easy to talk to about hey, have it on your phone, have it on your iPad so that they can portability to court, right? They are good, they're good people to talk to in this space because they get it, right? They get the need for accessibility. So we have a guide, right? And people are interested in ProView. So I created a page, we're LibGuide's house, with desktop reference, and it goes to these main titles, right? The database level. But then through some effort and speaking with clinical faculty, I have family law, guardianship, housing, immigration. This will be based on your institution and what your clinics are doing, right? But the students will love you. I don't have to lug around West family laws and rules because when I click on it, oh, because you're logged in. All right, see live presentations. They're always so much fun, that's okay. We'll trick the internet into thinking that it's me. Family law and rules in Florida. Affordability. This is expensive to buy if you're a student taking a family law clinic one semester. And then we know this book, 2018, is gonna be replaced next year. It'll be the same, it'll be similar, or maybe not. It could be a completely different thing because the Florida Supreme Court said something and now we had to update a whole chapter, right? For me, this has been really exciting as a librarian to speak with students, to speak with clinical faculty, to understand their needs and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and to talk to them about easier, better ways to have those options and make things a little bit more affordable. And you had a clinic example, or do you want to?
We also use a LibGuide, and I won't demonstrate that because we're getting close to the end. I just wanted to tell you that we had a perfect opportunity to really pull the clinics into the electronic world about 5 years ago, because our clinic used to live off-site in rented office space about 3 miles from the law school. And the decision was made administratively to pull that all internally and have the clients actually come to the law school as opposed to this office park. And that's when we discovered that they were looking at older versions of CLE materials. We were ordering multiple copies of rule books for them. They were getting lost, left behind in the courthouse, whatever. And it was our perfect moment, our teachable moment of here's how you can access it electronically. The CLE material from Massachusetts, a lot of it was published in loosely form. You know what happened? I took the pages out to copy it, took it to court, didn't go back in the binder. Now they have a complete copy, and we know they're always going to be looking at the latest copy. And that's all linked through our LibGuide.
So what can we do, right? What can you take home to your institution and then take steps to kind of get in this space? You have to know what you have, right? You have to know what you have. What ebooks are available, what subjects, and then outreach is the biggest part of this. You have to have conversations. It is a lot of work if you have an outreach librarian, he or she can do her thing. What I did was I outreached to vendors, right, to our publishers. They have all this information. Give it to me. I paid for it. Give it to me. And they did. And what does that look like? Where am I? That looks like this humongous Excel spreadsheet. I have all the URLs ready to go to ingest into my LibGuides. The librarians added this information, which is institution specific. Is it a foundation course? Is it a bar tested course? Is it heavy bar tested? This may not matter to you. I don't know. I don't work where you do. This was important for us to talk with our academic excellence program about the study aids because that's what they needed for those students. Thomson Reuters ProView the same. I have all the links here, direct links, static links, and then for West Academic as well. This is a librarian resource. it helps us to give it to students, to give it to faculty without doing those searches within the databases, because then you're stuck with that same copy of the permanently, find the permanently, click, 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 click. No, I don't have time for that. What this looks like right now is, for fall, what can we send to faculty based on who is teaching what this semester? All right? This is a lot of work. I'm not going to pretend like it's not. I feel that it's worth the effort. Is it worth the effort, Marianne?
It definitely is, because in the end, I think the students will love you for it, and the faculty will find it that much easier, and it creates that stronger partnership that we're always trying to build with the faculty. We don't happen to do it in the same way as Lisa. We have librarians who are embedded in different programs in the clinics. We have a heavy liaison program, so we're constantly talking to folks who are assigned to. I mean, again, it depends on how your institution works, but it's definitely something you can do.
And use your strength, right? Use the tools that you have, use what you've got to be the change. These are the two guides. I do not yet, I'm gonna be copying a lot of your work. So I have linked the FIU Libraries, its main campus's guide on affordability, and it has a lot of information about integrating into Canvas as well. And then you have a great guide.
Right, I've tried over the years to really provide links to the source, like Jane mentioned, the trademark class, that particular course book and others, so I have a little listing by subject matter. Happy to hear any of your experiences if you know of others that we haven't captured, but it's a good resource for faculty. It's promoting our university grant program.
And here's the bibliography we were alluding to. Questions?
I know a lot of law schools are banning computers their first year in first year classes.
Yep.
So how has that
Okay.
worked with like e-textbooks? Are you just encouraging the students to print the cases off and bring them in? And what's their reception been to that if you were using like, say, an e-textbook and then using the textbook in class?
Sure. I don't get into that. That is for the faculty that is teaching the course to make those decisions for their instructional model. All right? It is a big hurdle, especially for that first year. Like I said with the example with the contracts with the Dressler, the understanding, that is a supportive requirement. So that faculty member, there is no reading in class for that particular book. So that's how that works. Different faculty do different things, right? And you have to be respectful of both. You have to be respectful of, hey, affordable for students, but also what the faculty is used to, what the faculty wants, in order to make what they're trying to teach go through to the student.
As a faculty member, if you want to talk after, I can give you some suggestions.
Any other questions?
More a comment. If you're looking for open resources, University of Minnesota also has an open textbook project for all subjects, including law. And they
They do.
scrape a lot of the Eli Dell materials
Yeah.
and the Duke materials you referenced.
Yeah, they were one of the big ones, I think, Deb, with the undergraduate textbooks.
Yes,
They're a really
very,
big
very much.
aggregator for that,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes?
So you were talking before about the students preferring print, and I find that to be somewhat the case because, we bought all these online platforms for study aids, and we still have to buy the print because that's what students like. Is there a solution to that, or do we even want to attempt a solution to that?
Well, I think what we've done is we have kept some of the print study aids because we couldn't really take that much of our budget to have them all electronic. It's really a competing, universe of how many study aids you're going to have. So we've tried to keep the West study aids because it seems to have some more substantive material in it. And then we've just supplemented with the Walters Kluwer in print for the E&Es. The E&Es are really big in my institution. So we get 2 print copies of the most popular E&Es, and then we keep the electronic platform with West.
So I'm different. We never bought study aids to begin with. So this is all bonus. So I'm a little bit fortunate in that respect. I think it's very institution specific. There is no really right or wrong answer. For me, it's more about speaking with students, the students I spoke with, and with the formal and informal discussions that we've had in surveys and whatnot. I prefer print if I can afford it. I can. Yours is free for me. I'm happy. Key for me in this space, though, is educating on utilizing the platform. What I found is that it's a fear of technology. A lot of these students, we assume that they know how to use these things, and they do not. They do not know how to use these things. So we have different workshops that kind of show the students, hey, this is what this is how you can annotate, this is, take the time with them, download the app right now. I'll wait, right? It's a lot of work, I get it. It is totally a lot of work, but to me it's worth it because even if I can get a room of 10 students, those 10 students are gonna talk to their study groups, it's gonna talk to those, and then it has carried over year to year to year. Also speaking with the Student Bar Association board and doing some demos for them, that really helps because then they'll talk about it on their Facebook, their Instagram, their whatever they got going on.
We have had study aids, but only single copies, and they've been in our reserve room. So because we're getting the electronic version over the summer, we've been pulling them out and processing them, which when they're on reserve, that means we've had 0 stats about their use because it's just people picking them off the shelf and putting them back. Now we're gonna have them be ones that they can check out, so that'll give us some information. Now in Illinois, we are part of a consortium library, so they might get borrowed by not our students. But that's always been a single-use thing, and when we have students who use them for studying for exams, we have people coming to the desk, and the only time we find out that somebody has hidden the book is when a whole bunch of people are coming to the desk being like, where is this thing that I used to find? So I think the electronic thing is gonna give us a better sense of which ones are being used, and then if we need to buy specific ones in print, we'll know.
Yes, our usage stats now, it's great because now I can talk about, oh, yes, you are using this, or no, you're not. One thing I just wanted to caution about in terms of integrating with your catalog, students find our nutshells in Lexis Digital Libraries, but now we have it in West Academic study aids, so that's been a learning experience to send them to the right place to find the material, because they freak out like, oh God, I need this over at the checkout. And we're like, no, it's fine, West Academic. And I created a fact to kind of walk them through that, so I just linked them to it. But yes, you're gonna love the usage stats. It really helps you in other spaces to do collection development on subject matter, right? We need help in this subject.
Do you share your usage stats with the faculty?
No.
It might be something to consider doing. For example, if someone in my library was, I tell my students which study aids are better, I review them all and tell them which are likely, but it might be helpful to let a faculty member know that all the property students this semester seem to be going to this study aid, because they then, surprisingly enough, when we grade exams, we see errors in them that we have no idea where they came from. And if someone from like the library said, everyone used this book, and you can suddenly see where the disconnect was and you can fix it next time.
I was referring to the usage stats in Lexis Digital Libraries, so that's different.
Oh, I was talking about checking out all these study aids, or if you can see which ones they're using on West Academic or anything. It's just, because it's taken me a while to figure it out, but I went and did the research and found the mistakes so that I could tell the students that that's wrong. So it's something that your faculty might actually appreciate.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I have a question for you. You all came to this program, obviously have interest in affordability. What is everyone doing? Like, does anybody want to share challenges, success stories in this space?
We have a couple faculty members who've been doing their own casebooks for years. They used to have it on HTML websites. I've moved them over to WordPress sites just because that's what we're supporting going forward.
Excellent.
Some of them have been locked down because they're concerned that
It's okay.
older versions will get out there and they don't want the
Yes.
students getting the wrong chapters because they're changing it and
Yes.
things like that, but it is a lot easier in WordPress for me to duplicate content from one professor's, just do an export, import if a new professor needs the same course and wants to make customizations, so
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
things like that that are
Excellent.
kind of do it yourself.
I was happy to see your variety of Excel spreadsheets where you're looking at like the list of books and